God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 17 of Your Journey Is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey, and your journey is not over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. Picking up where I left off on last Thursday's podcast. Well, the bomb went off in my left ear, and my dad got my mom off of me, like he had many, many times before. And I demanded my insurance card. And yes, when my mom asked, was I going to tell them at the emergency room? Of course I was. Like I said in the previous podcast, I was so tired of being her punching bag. And I was so tired of the hatred and the resentment, and then called physical abuse. Was I a perfect teenager? Lord, no. I was a normal teenager, though. I worked. I tried to be self-sufficient so that I didn't have to ask my mom for anything. No school clothes. My friend's mom had bought me school clothes for the last 2 years. And when I did have to start buying school clothes, my brother always helped me with that. And I never asked her for spending money. And when school was in, I always got decent grades. As I've always put it, I was again a normal teenager. I kept up with my priorities. I kept everything in order. Stayed on task. Did what was expected of me at home and at work and school and the radio station and being president of whatever at school. So I kept up with all that was expected of me. And yes, I hung out with my friends and I drank and smoked weed too. Of course, always scheduled around all of my responsibilities. So no, I wasn't perfect, but I sure didn't do anything to be physically abused constantly. I did not deserve that. I know that now, but living like that my whole life, I knew nothing but this. As I always say, it was just my life. The circumstances I was born into, and again, who I was born to. So, with my left ear bleeding and the ringing, I do remember 2 of my girlfriends had to help me to my bedroom and help me to get dressed and ready to go to the emergency room. I was really dizzy. I was completely off balance. It definitely messed up my equilibrium. I do remember my friends helping me into the bathroom, and I remember looking in the mirror at myself when I was washing my face, and that always crumbled me. To see my mouth busted and marks or bruises on my face, I could always control my emotions until I would see myself and the damage that was done to me. It would break my heart, crumble me into 1,000 pieces, especially at that age. I was old enough and wise enough to concept that this can't be normal and that I didn't do anything to deserve this. I didn't do anything to deserve anything that was done to me. I wasn't a bad kid. So, all of my other friends, well, they went outside to wait for us. Of course they did. How awkward for them. And I'm sure they felt helpless because they couldn't protect me from my own mom. Now, had that been another teenager or a stranger, my friends would have been on top of that in a heartbeat. So I'm sure, again, they felt helpless. And, well, I, of course, was embarrassed. And I felt guilty because they had to stop their plans. Our plans was to have a nice, fun day in the sun. Now, they had to take me to the emergency room. And, of course, Be my witness to what happened and how it happened to me and who did it. So we arrive at the hospital, and I was still off balance, extremely dizzy, and I was really sick to my stomach. Nauseous. I think the dizziness contributed to that. I checked in and was taken straight back to a room and examined. The doctor ran a few tests to make sure I didn't have no brain damage from the beating and the hits my left ear. When all the tests came back, my left eardrum was ruptured. That was the reason for the blood. The doctor took down all of the information about how and who did this to me, and he put drops in my ear and packed my ear with cotton balls and gave me a couple of prescriptions, one for ear drops and one for nausea medicine. I declined pain medicine. Again, wasn't and have never been a person that takes pills. Not to get off track, because if you've listened to me long enough, then you already know I kind of have a tendency to do that. I just want to add that my mental health team are amazed that I have been able to go through what they call massive trauma my whole life and survive the trauma I endured. And I've done it without medication. Let's not forget, though, I did have a crutch. It was marijuana. That's what I used for the anxiety, for the calmness, and to level me out and to keep me focused. But yes, I have managed to survive every single thing without medication. Do I feel like anything is wrong with taking medication? No, I do not. And it's a personal choice for each person. My own personal choice and the way I have always looked at it. Again, my own special way of seeing things, okay? And again, my own personal choice. I had OCD really bad. So the way I viewed it, well, that was giving away too much of my power over to my doctor. Doctors get to decide what you take, how much you take, how long you take it, and when you do come off of it. So I'm sure there has to be some kind of withdrawals to your body. Again, a lot of power I could never hand over so freely. And another aspect to it was I never wanted to take any medication that would alter my moods or my personality. Again, just my own personal opinion. And like they say, opinions are something that each of us have. And of course, each of us all have different opinions, respectfully. I've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of messages from around the world. Of course, shocked again that someone that looks like me, someone that speaks like me, and the most common I hear, someone that has such a love and a light for everyone, could sadly go through the things I had to endure. I can't stress this enough to everyone. I don't do the why me. I don't get stuck in that. I never have. I was taught by my grandma to never ask God why. There are a lot of things I sure didn't understand, and I didn't deserve, that's for sure. But I also was taught, and I learned with time, that I would understand it eventually. Romans 8, verse 28 says that he uses all things together for our good, and it's all God's timing. Now, I can honestly say, as bizarre as this is going to sound to some, I thank God every single day for everything that I had to endure and go through. And let's not forget, overcome. I now have knowledge, compassion, empathy, understanding, and also experiences. Like God told me last April, every path He took me down made me humble. It made me kind. It made me compassionate. And it gave me a love for people and an unconditional love for people like no other. And it made me, of course, relatable and approachable. Growth comes through every challenge. Also, without everything that I had went through, again, survived and overcame, I wouldn't have the knowledge or the experiences, nor would I be able to relate to almost any situation or person. When I was in Miami, Florida in November, I was laying on the beach, And I was just enjoying the peace and the balance, and listening to the waves of what I call God's water. And like I've said many times in my podcast, I never stop learning. And most important, I never stop discovering new things about myself. So I was just laying there, and all of a sudden it hit me. I had endured abandonment, struggles with my health from birth, with my tumor in my hips. I had endured abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse. I've experienced what I call the lack of, which was love, understanding, kindness, empathy from my own mom. And I've endured the lack of food several times in my life. Of course, being an abandoned child, I was always seeking, love, validation, needing to feel loved, accepted. So as I got a little older, I found myself in some really bad relationships. Some were more abusive than others. I walked right into cycles. That's what I now say. They were all I knew. So, yes, as a teenager and as an adult, I found myself being abused, mentally, physically, and emotionally, always being taken advantage of. My codependency, my abandonment issues, my childhood trauma. I'm an open book with people I love, so I would be forthcoming about my life, share about myself. I think we all do that, especially when others make us feel loved and safe. I was naive and way too trusting. And I've always said I was a perfect victim for some. And yes, I fell right into the cycle, or pattern, as some would like to call it. And I found myself with people exactly like my mom, self centered, narcissistic, that felt the need to earn my trust and love through manipulation and being deceitful. And once they earned my trust and love, then of course their true self would be revealed. Or how I put it, their mask that they were wearing, it slipped or it fell off completely. And with the relationships, it hasn't only been people that I was in a relationship with. This has also been family, friends, and even close acquaintances that I once trusted. So I was taken advantage of. But guess what? Again, as bizarre as it's going to sound, I thank God every day that number one, I survived those situations. And number two, I walked away from each one all the more wiser and with the experience and the knowledge. I can now relate to anyone that comes to me or has came to me for guidance, for advice, or insight, or just a listening, understanding ear. And also with the experience of knowing exactly where they are or where others are going on their journey. It's a road I've already traveled. God wanted me relatable, and I always laugh now, and I tell him, Father, you didn't leave anything or any experience out. No stone left unturned. That's for sure. Of course, later on in my journey, the storms passed, and I got with, and I found, and I married my late husband. I settled into a nice, calm, peaceful life, a safe life for me for the first time in my life. The most loved and understood that I've ever felt my whole life. And, well, life took an unexpected turn for us. He was diagnosed with bladder cancer on May 6, 2023, and he passed away August 22nd, 2023. So then again, I was led on a whole new journey and completely alone and scared. Through time and lots of faith and trusting in God and my faith in God, I now understand what my husband tried so desperately to tell me in those 3 very short months. My journey isn't over. My experiences, whether they be good or bad, are just that, more experiences to learn and grow from, and to hopefully to try and help others, and to accept and embrace these experiences, and to learn how to allow oneself Give yourself permission to heal and to learn and to help others with your experiences and your knowledge. Rise above all that hurt you and know that it taught you lessons, life lessons. Be the light, because everyone is drawn to the light, and light the way to God, to happiness, to peace, to love, and to understanding, and to healing. Please remember, nothing happened to you. It all happened for you. So heal yourself. You're worth it. Before I sign off today, I do want to share, again, something that has helped me. And I truly hope it helps someone else too. I do not own the rights to this. I found this as I've let everyone know. I'm a bookworm and I read all kinds of stuff. So I do want to state that I do not own the rights to this. And this was written by Maya Angelou. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Because yes, life's. And yes, it throws unexpected challenges our way, often. But you decide what defines you. You decide what you carry and what you release. You just have to keep rising again and again in the midst of those challenges. That will always be enough. This concludes my podcast for today. Please join me Thursday, listen in, and always remember, your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've